good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to the Bourse Report. Well, today we're talking about a topic that should be near and dear to most of us, and that is retirement. And am I financially prepared for retirement, rather? And that's a question that most of us often start to think about a bit too late on in life, perhaps towards the end of our careers, or when we get to that middle age sort of 45 to 50 area, 45 to 50-year-old bracket. And that may in fact be a little bit too late for us in terms of adequately preparing financially for retirement. So today we're going to ask a couple key questions, three in fact, about when I should start preparing for retirement, how much should I save for retirement, and what are some of the options available to saving and investing for retirement from an investor perspective. So let's get straight into it. And of course, that first question we spoke about is how much should I be saving for retirement? Now, there are a couple of considerations that would drive this number, your personal number. And again, it's very specific to each individual. That first consideration being, of course, what would my future basic living expenses look like? Of course, we're talking about things like fuel, food, utilities, and basic living expenses that need to be covered. We then take a next step into the luxury spending aspect. Well, do I want to afford certain levels of travel, certain lifestyles in terms of eating out, in terms of the quality of home, the quality of vehicle? And finally, we look at legacy considerations. Would I like to gift while I'm alive financial benefits to my children or next of kin or whoever, as well as what would I want to leave upon my eventual demise or departure from this earthly plane. So all of this drives what your wealth target or wealth number should be, and those three factors, if you look at them very, very meticulously, would result in a detailed expense forecasting, which can be sometimes onerous and a bit frustrating if without the proper advisory and guidance from expert investment advisors and others in this particular area. There are other means of gauging what your wealth target should be, with some basic rules of thumb for retirement or preparing for retirement financially. One of them being the 80% rule, which says that your retirement income should be roughly 80% of your pre-retirement income, which means, for example, if you were earning $10,000 a month just before you retired, you would want to have about 80% of that, or $8,000 a month in retirement income set aside. The 4% rule is another rule of thumb which you could use, and that would suggest, for example, if you wanted to have $1 million or $40,000 in investment or retirement spending annually, you would need roughly about $1 million saved up in a nest egg at that point of retirement. Now, regardless of whatever approach you use, the detailed expense forecasting probably being the most accurate of the three, we'd have to determine that number in order to start preparing better financially for your retirement spending and financial position. Now, the second question is, when should I start saving? Well, the easy answer to this is as early as possible. So let's take a very quick look at an example of two individuals, one Emily and the second being Ryan, both with the same investment target value at retirement. For simplicity's sake, $1 million. They expect to earn 4% per annum on whatever they set aside from now until that retirement age, and their retirement age is in fact 65 years. Now, at 25 years old, that means Emily has just about 40 years to retirement. Ryan, at 50 years old, just has about 15 years to retirement. Again, keep in mind, both individuals have that same target value at retirement of $1 million with the same return expectations. Now, what does that translate into in terms of numbers from a monthly contribution, or what Emily and Ryan would have to set aside, as well as what the final numbers look like? Well, in terms of what Emily would have to set aside, not pictured on the screen, she would have to save roughly $850 a month over those 25 years. Now, if both individuals were earning $10,000 pre-tax monthly, that means Emily would have to set aside about 8.5% of her pre-tax income. Ryan, on the other hand, starting at age 50 with the same retirement target in mind of $1 million, would have to set aside roughly just over $4,000 a month of his $10,000 pre-tax income, which is just over 40% of his pre-tax income for a period of 15 years. So a shorter period, but certainly in terms of his financial flexibility and discipline, he would have to be much more disciplined and much less financially flexible, having to set aside a much larger portion of his income on a month-to-month basis if he started saving at the age of 50. Now, what does that translate into over the entire period of retirement savings? Well, in terms of total monthly contributions, Emily, for example, would have saved or made contributions of just about $400,000, even though she would have been contributing over a longer period, that 40-year period. Ryan, on the other hand, would have had to contribute just about 730 odd or 732 odd $1,000. So almost double what Emily would have set aside in just contributions. Now, why would that occur if Emily was contributing for a longer period? Well, the power of compounding comes into play, and with that expected return of around 4%, which is quite achievable in current conditions, Emily's 400,000 periodically contributed over time would have led to investment returns, which would have accumulated roughly 60% of her retirement target, just under $600,000 over that longer investment period, whereas Ryan's contributions would have had less time to generate investment returns and benefit from that power of compounding, and would have accumulated just about 27% of his total $1 million retirement target. So certainly the key takeaway here is an earlier start gives you greater investing benefits, one, in terms of that benefit of compounding and your investment returns over time, as well as the ability to ride out certain investment cycles. Of course, the market isn't a straight line and doesn't go up all the time. So a longer investment horizon does in fact give you that opportunity to ride out any short-term investment cycles. Now, the third question you should be asking after you've answered, well, how much should I save and when should I start saving is, well, what's my approach to saving and investing for retirement? And again, we're taking an investment perspective here. And there are two broad-based approaches that you could use. One, the do-it-yourself approach or DIY portfolio, versus looking at something that's a bit more convenient in terms of packaging and offers some additional benefits, which are retirement funds. Now, when we take a look at some of the key factors, convenience, of course, the retirement funds would score a little bit higher, given that it does offer that professional management. It's simply you contribute and let your investment manager, whoever that would be, manage the fund and generate returns over a longer period of time. There is a longer term investment focus for retirement funds, and it is very flexible in terms of how much you contribute and when you contribute. So that convenience factor is, of course, built in, and to the advantage of the retirement fund. Again, that professional investment management, you don't have to know it all from an investment perspective. You would be hiring somebody to do that by contributing to a retirement fund. So again, retirement funds does have that degree of professional investment management. Both the do-it-yourself approach and the retirement fund approach, if done correctly, would offer diversification benefits. Of course, that would have some degree of investor experience and knowledge that would be required on your individual part. The one area that the DIY or do-it-yourself approach would benefit from versus the retirement fund is that level of high customization, where you can tailor your own investment portfolio to your specific risk requirements, whereas a retirement fund takes a very holistic and longer-term approach to investing and does have that degree of diversification automatically built in by its investment managers. But there is another significant benefit for retirement funds, which includes that tax savings. And of course, we know that there's a $60,000 annual allowance for contributions to approved investment or retirement schemes. And that means that you could save up to $15,000 on taxes if you maxed out that benefit in cash, which is contributing up to $60,000 annually in an approved retirement scheme or retirement fund. So certainly that's where the retirement fund would also have a slight advantage in versus the do-it-yourself approach. Now, we spoke about the 4% return expectation. Now, there are many investment retirement funds rather available in the Trinidad and Tobago market. Now, we're just taking a look very quickly at the Bourse Individual Retirement Fund, and we take a look at this longer term period, a 10-year trailing period from this end of 2012 / start of 2013 to the end of 2022, and we look at what on an annualized return basis that this fund would have generated, and we can see that $100,000 placed into the fund at this end of 2012 / start of 2013 would have accumulated to just over $160,000 at the end of 2022, which does provide that annualized return of 4%. Now, bear in mind that this is like most retirement funds now, are defined contribution funds, so that those returns could be higher or lower based on the different market cycles and economic cycles. And we are, in fact, in one of those low economic cycles, but we can see that over the course of time, we have that general upward trend and a reasonably decent return of around 4% on an annualized basis for retirement funds. Well, that's it for this week's edition. Now, whatever you do choose to adopt in terms of your retirement approach, of course, the key takeaway is that you should be saving and investing for your retirement. And for more information, you can give us a call at 226-8773 or to Bourse, email us at invest@boursefinancial.com. And of course, you can check out all of our research absolutely free at bourseinvestment.com, our website, and catch this article in today's business section of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian newspaper. See you next week. Happy investing, and we'll see you next time on the Bourse Report.